is set in stone. Okay. I was a little late getting the last one up. I had to edit some parts of it out. But this one will be up in a decent amount of time. All right. Now, okay. If you remember, all right, how to get back to D2L. Okay, go there now. Okay, but if you don't know how to get back, let me show you real quick. I'll just start from scratch. All right, so I'm about to go to our homepage or OCC's homepage. Oh, Irene. Sorry, this is one of my, Irene was never my student, but she's been a very active member of Black Student Union. So it's good to see my students doing stuff. All right, and Irene's graduating. So hats off to her. One day that could be you. Okay. So I'm just going to hover over any one of these categories and click D2L. All right, I'm already signed in. So if I was not signed in, then you would just scroll down and sign yourself in and then find our class. We're S1201. All right, and I'm just going to keep it in teacher view today. I don't feel like switching back and forth. So if you will, go into content. And then look in the week 2 module. Right now, there's a lot of stuff in there, but we're only going to cover some of this material tonight. Okay. Specifically, if you go all the way down to the bottom, there's some slides called active reading. You can either open them on your computer if you have PowerPoint, but if not, you can just look on me. But I do make all of this material available for you guys. All right. So if ever you want to just browse through it, you're more than free to do that. And to download it, or either you can open it like this, just click it and view it like this on your computer. And it just takes forever to load. Or you could just hit this little drop down and then go download. And then it is. Okay. Yeah, man, active reading. Okay. Here's just some reading statistics, but not gonna spend too much time on that. But when these statistics were taken, about 1 in 4 adults in the United States could not read, past a certain level. Okay. And it's still very possible to slip through the cracks without learning how to read, unfortunately. So yeah, literacy is important, man. Literacy can really affect the outcome of your life. Okay. So why do we read other than the fact that teachers make us? Okay. Definitely exposure to new things. Okay. Man, reading, it can expose us to so much. Like right now, just our book, Born to Crime, it's going to really expose us to the way life is, or life was in South Africa in the 80s, 90s, and moving on to the 2000s. All right. So that'll give us some exposure to, what's going on in a different part of the world. All right. So reading certainly, it broadens our knowledge base. Okay. Broadens our knowledge base. And you can never, I don't know, it's you can never know too much, I guess. Right. Improves your understanding. And when you're learning new things, you start to connect the dots and you develop new understandings of how life works. Yeah. Definitely learn from the experiences of others. Important. Boost imagination and creativity. Absolutely. Absolutely. And something that goes along with that, reading also improves our vocabularies. Okay. Makes us better conversationalists. And then just on a practical level, like when you go in for an interview, usually the first thing that the person sitting across from you is going to say to you is, so tell me a little bit about yourself. Okay. And I'm not going to say reading will give you like a great answer for that, but reading can certainly improve your understanding of how words fit together, and it gives you more words to draw from. I think the more words the more expressive you can be. So when you're asked that question, like, hey, tell me a little bit about yourself, or when something happens and it's like, well, how did that make you feel? Okay, you can be more expressive. All right. Self-improvement, absolutely. I think all reading to a certain degree can contribute to a person's self-improvement. Okay, well, not all reading, but a lot of reading that we're doing actively. Okay. And then I just want to stop here for a second because, you know, we're just in need of more understanding of one another as humans, meaning like across culture, across racial barriers, across religious barriers, whatever. All right. So reading can help us build that empathy, meaning it can show us what it's like to walk in someone else's shoes. Okay. We can show what drives a decision, that a person makes, that at first we may be judgmental of that decision, but when we really get into what made that decision, then, oh, okay, we can start to understand. So reading can definitely build empathy. And to me, we're kind of in a space where we're lacking empathy or just this understanding of other people's experiences. Right. And finally, enhances communication. Absolutely. And it's really just giving us more words, helping us understand how words fit together. And that's one of the reasons why I say reading is really one of the best, if not the best, teachers of writing. Another thing, and this is just like on a I don't know, reading can help you, like if you misuse words like there, and there. Reading can help with that because the more you see it, the more it's gonna be it's just gonna be part of your subconscious. So yeah, if you struggle with there, and there, like let's and women, all that stuff, all right, or words that frequently are confused, like two and two. All right, reading can help you. I don't know, reading can help you. Like I said, the more you see something like that, the more it's just going to become part of you, and pretty soon you're doing it without thinking about it. All right. This is why some people don't learn to read. Sometimes, reading just isn't the priority. I get that. Or you may not have access to books. Okay. English may not be your first language. All right. If you were like me, you kind of learned how to slip through the cracks in high school. So this wasn't me. I still got A's and B's. It was like C's and D's, but I just did what I had to in high school pretty much. All right. Some say reading is boring. Okay. And that can depend on what you read. All right. Hard to understand. Um, we're kind of gonna go a little bit deeper into that tonight. If something's hard to understand, that doesn't mean like give up on it. It means maybe read it again, okay? Or maybe you have to read something else, to enhance your understanding of this first source. Okay, it's like on our D2L page where I have a module about apartheid. All right. Just going over some of that material, could, make our book easier to understand, even though the book, does gives you enough, to understand apartheid. But if you want to know more, right, it's on our page. Yeah. Difficulty with retention. Oh man, making it stick. We're going to talk about that tonight too. All right, their motivation, absolutely. Okay. Sometimes people was like, why? Well, why should I read? Okay, what do I have to gain? Meaning sometimes or some people don't move unless there's some kind of economic incentive, and reading of course it could have an economic payoff in the long run, but for the most part reading is for enrichment, or maybe things that aren't really tangible. All right, now this is going to be our process. All right, because like I was saying earlier, I don't know how much time do we spend thinking about things that we read via text or via social media. Okay, like how much time, how much critical thought are we putting into that versus reading a book that you have for class, or even outside of a class, just something that you would want to something that you want to make stick in your brain. All right, and in order to increase your chances of what you read sticking with you, all right, that means you have to read actively. Okay, and one of the first principles of active reading, it's not even up here, But one of the first principle is giving yourself the time and the space to read without distraction. All right. Like if you're reading, but you take a break every few minutes to look at your phone, odds are, what you're reading probably isn't going to stick. All right. And that's not me. That's, science. Meaning if your attention is constantly switching from one thing to another, it's going to be hard to remember. All right. You might half remember something from a text, but it's really, if you aren't focused, on what you're doing, then it's going to be hard to, really going to be hard to, I guess, reproduce and, remember what you're reading about, or remember and reproduce. All right. People always think, especially when it comes to studying, people always think you have to study for hours and hours on end. But a focused 20 minutes is, you don't really need much more than that, 20, 30 minutes at a time. All right. So first thing is you're focused. Okay. And there's a great method that I tell students about all the time. It's called the Pomodoro method. And with this method, all you do, you just set a timer for 20 minutes. All right. And you read for that 20 minutes uninterrupted. Okay. Take a break. All right. And when you feel ready, you do another 20 minutes. All right. So in doing that, you kind of train yourself, to read without these distractions. And it's hard. Our phones are designed to distract us. And, sometimes, in this remote setting, we don't have a quiet space, right? I totally get that. Okay. But, to the best of your ability, try to read when you're uninterrupted. All right. And you know your schedule. Okay. But my advice to you is try to schedule some time in where you can, get your reading in. All right. So when you start the process of active reading, okay, it occurs before, during, and after, you're reading the text. Okay. Before, right? You're looking up the author. Okay. Um, if we go back to D2L just real quick, right, after my D2L. Okay. And if we go back just quickly, there's a Trevor Noah module. All right. Here's his website, his wiki page, just a YouTube channel. So what I'm saying is when you're reading something, it always pays to know a little bit about the author. All right. Sometimes there's going to be a ton of information available, like on Trevor Noah, who's a public figure, but sometimes there's not. You know, you may just have to go with what you have on the back cover. That's fine. So try to know something about the author, try to know something about the subject matter. Okay. Try to know something about the subject matter. Okay. And then once you do that, compare it against your own prior knowledge, right? What did you already know about this? Okay. So that's what you're doing before. Also, it helps with a book like ours, what are people saying about it? Okay. This back cover. Okay. The inside cover. So it just helps to get to know your sources, what I'm saying. All right. As to the best of your ability. All right. And then as you're reading, okay, as you're reading, again, you want it to be an environment that's, conducive to reading, first off. All right. And if you only got 20 minutes, fine. Just make sure that 20 minutes is the most focused 20 minutes you can have during that time. 30 minutes. Sometimes maybe you want to read the whole 35 in one sitting. That's up to you. All right. But you also want to have a pen out as you're reading. Okay. Have a pen out, as you're reading. All right. Pencils are all right, but pens are better. Only because pencils tend to wear off after by the end of the semester. You might not be able to see what you wrote, on page 3. All right. Why are we reading with the pen out? I'll tell you in a second. All right. But as you're reading, you're also trying to predict, you know, what's going to happen based on what you know now, based on what you read in chapter 1. Try to deduce, what's going to happen in chapter 2. And whether you're right or wrong, you're still engaging the book. All right. And that's the goal here. Okay. And you're really like learning how to, or you're making a deduction based on what what's most logical. Okay. Based on what you know, what's most logical. Okay. Dry erase boards could help, but a pen is going to be your best weapon. And I'll tell you why in a little bit, maybe on the next slide. All right. All right. So try to predict what's going to happen. Maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong, but it's all about engaging the material. Okay. And as you're reading, I think the good thing about our book is Trevor Noah, very visible. So you can kind of picture, even in the early parts of the book where he's a kid, in my own mind, I was picturing like Trevor Noah's adult face, but he has like a little kid's body. Don't ask me why. All right. I guess because I don't know what he looks like. All right. But what I'm saying is try to visualize the book. Okay. Or with anything you're reading, right? Try to visualize what's happening. Picture the events. People picture what's happening. Okay. In our book, there are some very good descriptions, that occur, in the text. So hopefully, you'll be able to, you know, um, visualize that in your own minds. Also, as you're reading, and this is a very critical part of active reading, you're making connections. How does this book connect to something you've read before? A film you may have seen, okay? An article, you may have read, whatever. All right. So, our book, it's not supposed to or anything, any piece of knowledge, that we take in, it's not supposed to exist, in isolation, meaning try to connect it, with what else right? What else you've read, things of that nature. All right. So again, that's part of what critical thinking is. Okay. You're taking this piece of reading, or you're taking this piece of information. Well, how does this compare to what I already know? How does this compare, to what I've already read? Okay. Ask questions. Okay. Ask questions. All right. Last semester you read this book, people, I don't know, man. If you Trevor's mom has a unique parenting style. That's all I'll say before, like, without going too far into it. But she has a unique parenting style, and a lot of students question, what some of her actions, all right, even some of Trevor's actions, all right. So, ask questions. Okay, clarify. It's just if you read something that you're unfamiliar with, okay, pursue it, look it up. Okay, you might start with Google, but it may take you further. All right. Or you may start with our library, the OCC library. Okay, shameless plug. All right. And then finally, evaluate. Okay. And you aren't necessarily evaluating the quality of the book itself, but you're just looking at decisions being made. Like, man, what would I have done in that if I was in that situation? Okay. What would I do if I had to tell my mom I got kicked out of school? All right. That was from the book. Okay. Spoiler alert. All right. Now, these are just some active reading strategies. All right. We talked about before, during, and after. Higher level of focus, definitely. This is why I tell folks not to, if you are going with the digital book for this class, like, don't get it on your phone, because I mean, we're always getting some kind of notification on our phone. All right. And then it's what I was saying before, like, make sure you're, in a space where you can focus. All right. For me, like, since it's been warm, like, outside is my place to focus. I can just sit around the backyard, man. Absorbing, understanding, retaining. Okay. Our book. All right. Now, say you're just reading something to pass the time. That's cool. Okay. Maybe you're just scrolling through stuff online. That's fine too. Stuff, things that you're not really remembering. Or you may be reading an article, and it's always interesting, but you just want to, like, get the gist of it. So you kind of skim through. That's cool too. But when we read actively, we're kind of taking the opposite approach, meaning we're going in depth. All right. So that may involve some rereading, okay, which is normal when it comes to active reading. Questioning, we talked about. Annotation, we're going to talk about in a second. Okay, making connections, we talked about that. Um, Reflecting on the material. One of the mistakes that students make, just not anyone in this class, but students in general, say you're having a class or you're studying, and the second your session is ended, whether you're studying or you're in class, second it's over, get your phone out. Okay. And, I'm guilty of this as well. All right. And what happens is, you aren't giving your brain enough time to digest before you move on to something else. So a good strategy is after you read something, just spend a little bit of time reflecting on it. Okay. Spend some time thinking about it. All right. That's what's going to help it stick, because you're going to remember what you read, and you're also going to remember, the reflection that you had on this material. All right. And it's the same thing if you're in a class where, and if I don't know how well, I don't know how far you are at OCC, but you're gonna have some classes where it's all lecture. I know I talk a lot because we're remote, but if face to face, like, I'll be talking about half as much. All right, but you guys are gonna have classes where it's just a block, a giant block of the teacher talking, and you're going to be taking notes. So it's in your best interest, just if you have one of those sessions, go back over your notes after class. It just takes a minute, 5-10 minutes. That's the investment that it takes. Okay. But I think with our book, we're going to be reflecting like in the form of reading questions and discussion posts. Okay. Something that gets us, discussing the text, in writing. All right. And then finally, active reading takes time. Okay. Takes time, takes commitment. All right. And like I said, when you have time, okay, or when you make time, I should say. Okay. And then passive reading. Passive reading has its place, but just not in this class for what we're doing. Skimming the material, not questioning, highlighting. What? I thought highlighting was a good thing. It can be, but highlighting is actually a passive reading strategy. Okay. We can make highlighting into an active reading strategy, but highlighting itself is a passive strategy. Really, when you highlight something, you're just like changing the color of the text and making it stand out. Okay. It's not really showing understanding. And sometimes we get too highlight happy where we're just highlighting, 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 and pretty soon, the whole page is highlighted, highlight. Okay, you know what I mean. But so like if you do that, how do you know what's important? If you highlight everything. Okay. So don't throw your highlighter away just yet though, because I'll show you how to make highlighting go from a passive to an active strategy. Okay. Don't ignore parts of the reading, that you don't understand. Especially, if you're in a class where you're reading about some difficult concept, don't skip it, man. Break it down. Break it down. Go talk to somebody. See a tutor. Okay. What are your classmates thinking? You probably aren't the only one who didn't understand this thing. Okay. And then finally, don't read while distracted. Don't read while watching TV. Okay. It's tempting, but don't do it. Okay. And like I was saying before, music is okay as long as it doesn't have words, or as long as it's not going to distract you from, as long as it's not going to distract you from what you're reading. Okay. Okay. This is just what we said in a nutshell. Now, Darla, you asked me about a dry erase board. Okay, that could work. I mean, you guys can't see it, but I have one right behind me. Okay, I use that to let myself know where I'm going. Okay. Now, there's some highlighting taking place on this example. Okay. Everyone throw yeah, throw away your highlighters. Okay. But now don't throw away your highlighters. Okay. But get some pins to go along with your highlighters. Because if you look at this book or this passage, All right. There's some great work going on here. All right. So there is highlighting, but there is some writing in addition to the highlighting. So the highlighting just went from being passive to active. Okay. Annotation is active. All right. Highlighting by itself or underlining by itself, passive. All right. So officially, annotation is the act of taking notes on the text. Okay. Not in a notebook, not in a separate source or whatever. Is taking notes like in your book. Okay. Let me see if I could let's see. Let's see. Okay, I think this could be close enough. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's Norwood, man. I gotta take notes too. It's not just something I force my students to do. I'm trying to find a page that's not in black, but I think I just went crazy with the black pen in this book. All right. So, you see, I'm an underliner. Like, it's too much work for me to just grab a separate highlighter. So I underline, but I also take notes. And if you notice, like, I have some asterisks, and I have some initials, and then I have a note on the side. Um, what I'm saying is, over practice and over, like, just trial and error, I have developed my own system of annotation, which is what I want for you, by the third or fourth reading, or even further than that, because you're gonna, especially if you never annotated before, you're gonna just have to try different things till you get a system that works for you. All right. And if you have like huge handwriting though, I just said don't take notes on a separate source, but if you have big handwriting, maybe sticky notes will be your thing. Okay. Or if you don't want to write in your book, sticky notes. But here's the thing about Born to Crime. Not gonna get anything back for selling it. So you might as well write in it. Okay. But to me, like, notes make the book more valuable. All right. So yeah, practice. All right. If you want to highlight, you can, but make sure you take notes. And if we look at some of this student's notes, all right, establishing spooky setting. How does he know A's name? Questioning. All right. All right. We see a word in pink. All right. And it has the definition next to it. All right. I think that says obscurely, but I can't see it. All right. Writing is kind of obscured. All right. Let's see what else this student has. Okay, another vocabulary word. Foreshadowing, a literary device. Another question. I'm looking at the top of the page on the right, or my right. All right. So this student, has really engaged this material. They're asking questions. They're making notes on the side. They're looking up words that they didn't know prior to reading this. And that's really what you're doing when you're annotating. You're just writing down, thoughts. Think about, what stands out to you. Okay. Think about what you can connect to. All right. Think about what you disagree with. Think about what you can't make a connection with. Think about look for words you don't know. Definitely. Definitely. Always look it up too. Always look it up. Okay. Words you don't know, always look it up. I'm sure. And if you don't have one, I recommend getting it. But I'm sure many of us have like a dictionary app on their phone. Okay. If not, you can just use Google, or okay, you can old school it, man. Just use a regular dictionary. Yeah, I think I got one laying around here somewhere. All right. So your annotations are a recording of your thoughts pretty much. Okay. If we were, in a face-to-face session, I would spot check your books. Again, not to like, I don't read students' notes, but I just want to make sure that you are taking notes, because at the end of the day, your notes are for you. They're to enhance your understanding. They're to help you write better papers. They're to help you remember, right? So, if you have a system that works for you and helps you remember, roll with it. Okay. But you can keep improving it. All right. Take notes, folks, take notes. If your book still looks brand new at the end of the semester, it's all bad. Okay, something didn't go right. All right. And then finally, before I move forward, this getting your page. Now, before I say anything, every page is not going to look like this. Like I showed you a page with notes. Some of my pages have a lot of notes. Some of them don't. Some of them don't have any notes. One of the things I want you to keep in mind when you're annotating is always go for quantity or always go for quality over quantity. Okay, always go for quality over quantity. Meaning, you take good notes. Okay. And just from teaching this class so many times, some students take a lot of notes, some students take sparse notes. It's really up to you. Whatever works for you. But if you aren't taking a lot of notes and you aren't getting the results you want, take more, take more. Okay. And what you're learning in here is just going to be a skill that translates, basically into all your classes. Okay, because note taking is going to feature in most of your classes. All right, so annotation does slow you down, okay? But what's the rush? All right, forces readers, I hate using that word forces, but forces readers to reread a text. Yeah, go back, go back, go back. Once we start our common essay, which is going to be about maybe a little bit past mid-semester, we aren't going to be all the way done with the book, but we will have enough of it read. But at that point in the semester, since we're going to be working on an essay about the book, I'm going to tell you like, hey, in order to put this essay together, go back and look at your notes instead of going back, to reread each chapter. Look back at your notes. Okay, look back at your notes. Some passages you may want to read again. Okay, I know. Yeah, I taught this book so far, winter, fall, and winter. I've read it a couple of times, but this semester I'm pretty much just relying on my annotations. Okay. Improves writing by providing a record of ongoing thoughts. Absolutely. Okay. Say you're putting your common essay together, right? You're going back to your annotations. Oh man, this is a great point I made. Now you've just taken that point that you made in your book and you've turned that into a body paragraph in an essay. So, it certainly improves your writing. It gives you those ideas and it records those ideas because if you're anything like me, I forget stuff. Okay, so I could be reading something and have a thought about it. If I don't write it down, odds are I'm probably not going to remember it the next day. All right, so I have to take notes. Again, it's not just something that I'm trying to get students to do just to keep you busy. All right, enhances comprehension. Absolutely helps you understand, and then promotes more active reading. Definitely, because in order to take good notes, you have to engage the material. Okay, so annotation, writing in your book. Okay, who just came in? Okay, so yeah, folks, take your notes. Take your notes. This is just a reason why highlighting could be bad for you, or not bad, but only highlighting, could be a passive strategy. The Association for Psychological Science released a study that concluded, quote, highlighting and underlining led the author's list of ineffective learning strategies. Uh-oh. Although they are common practices, studies show they do not, or excuse me, studies show they offer no benefit beyond simply reading the text. Some research even indicates that highlighting can get in the way of learning because it draws attention to individual facts. It may hamper the process of making connections and drawing inferences. So sometimes if you're focused on one little part, it prevents you from seeing the big picture. All right. And then what's really interesting is the point that it offers no benefit beyond reading. Okay. So highlight, yeah, but take notes along with your highlighting, please. It'll help you in the future. Yeah, okay. So highlighters, rejoice. Okay, you can use every color under the rainbow, or every color in the rainbow, I should say, but take notes as well. Okay. And just me personally, I like a nice pen. All right. It's the English nerd in me. I like just like a nice smooth writing pen. Okay. And then annotation strategies. Now, if you don't know what to annotate, all right, again, like I said, I do want you to develop your own strategy. Absolutely. I want you to develop your own style of note taking. Definitely. And like I was saying before, sometimes I take notes in words, other times I have symbols. I know what they mean, but if I show them to somebody, they may not know, which is fine because the notes are for me. All right. And it's the same with you. Okay. And just for example, like for me, exclamation point next to a passage, that means important. Read this again. All right. Dollar sign means this is all about money. Okay. And then I have other symbols. All right. But I think the thing that helps me the most is taking notes because it just helps remember those little thoughts you may have about stuff going on in text, or it helps remember questions you may have. So annotation is your chance to have a conversation with the piece of writing. Okay, you're really dialoguing with the author. Okay, dialoguing with the author. Work out things you find questionable. Okay? Like I said, man, Patricia, Trevor's mom, does some unique things as a mother. Okay, and just me, trying to put myself in one her shoes as a mother, but two, looking at it from young Trevor's perspective. All right, I just wrote down some things about it, about certain incidents. Okay, so maybe you want to do that as well. All right, circle words or phrases that need to be defined or made clearer, and then go beyond that, define them, and write the definition in the margins. Okay, this one is kind of an old school thing. Draw lines between related ideas, but it does help to note page numbers. Like if you're reading something on page 73, you're like, oh, this is just like that thing that happened on page 36. Okay, so instead of drawing lines, you can just mark page numbers. Or one of my it's another English nerd thing, but one of my book pet peeves is like when people turn the corner of their pages back. But if you do want to remember a page, get like some tabs or something. But paper clips work too. But I guess if it's your book, so you can fold the pages back if you want. Just keep it away from me. All right. Mark difficult to understand sections of the text that need a closer look. Absolutely. Again, don't skip over difficult stuff. Okay, go back over it. Okay, and then think about why you find it difficult. Okay, because that can help your understanding as well. Like, what about this was difficult? Don't just say it was hard. Like when people when I talk to students about papers and other assignments, students will say sometimes, "Well, I'm stuck, Professor Norwood." And I'm like, what does that mean? Okay, what are you stuck on? Like, be specific. And it's the same thing. If you don't understand something, jot down why you don't understand it. Okay, and then finally, I think this last point is what the majority of your annotations could be. Make comments based on your understanding of a particular section of the reading. Self-connection, make associations. Well, now that you read this thing, right? Now that you read about Trevor being thrown out of a moving car, what did you think about it? Okay. What did you think about it? What did that remind you of? If anything, another text, okay? Your childhood, right? I almost fell out of a moving car when I was in my car seat when I was a kid. So that's what it made me think about when I read that. Okay. Well, the spoiler alert from the book. All right. So yeah, jot down your thoughts, as you read. And when people ask me, like, well, what should I annotate, Professor Norwood? And the answer that I give them is, write down what you're thinking, as you're thinking it. All right, while it's still fresh. Okay. Oh, this reminds me of my Aunt Gina. All right. Because, and then you'll finish it. Okay. Oh, I didn't know it was like this in South Africa. Okay. Oh, apartheid was really oppressive. All right. Wow, I didn't know apartheid happened so recently. Just things like that. Okay. Or maybe you have a thought, about, something. Okay. This is just like, what's happening in my neighborhood. Now, all right. Here is here are three connections that you can make, if you're stuck, right? If you're stuck, you can make a text to self connection, a text to text connection, or a text to world connection. Okay. A text to self connection, all right, is essentially a personal connection to something that you're reading in a text. Okay. Meaning, how do the ideas in the text relate to your own life, ideas, and or experiences? One, as a student, I always tell students, when you're writing a paper, you shouldn't rely on your personal experiences to make your point, unless that's the assignment. But when you're reading, bring in your personal experiences. Okay. And to go even further, value your personal experiences. Okay. Value your personal experiences because they can be part of this discussion as well. All right. And when you think about it, our book, Born a Crime, it's what? A personal account. Okay. And even though it's set in a different continent, on a different continent, I mean, there are some cultural differences that I saw. I made a lot of personal connections to how the way Trevor grew up. Like I could relate to a lot of his experiences. All right. What I just read reminds me of the time when and then you can finish that. I agree with what Patricia did because, or I disagree with. Okay. I don't agree with what I just read because in my own life, blank, blankety blank, you can finish it out. Okay. So that'll be a text to self. How does this relate to my own experiences, my prior knowledge, my ideas, my perspective? Your experiences can bring a lot of value, to this or to, enhancing your understanding. Another connection you can make is a text to text connection. Oh man, this reminds me of this book I just read. Yeah, you're gonna name the book, of course. Okay. This reminds me of this movie I just saw. Man, I just watched a documentary about this. Okay. Oh man, Professor Norwood just gave me this article about apartheid. Okay. So how did the ideas in this text remind you of another text? Story, book, movie, song, etc. Okay. This passage reminds me of a long way home because, okay, I had the same typo on this slide for like 3 semesters. This passage reminds me of a long way home because, okay, a long way home was this class about, I don't know how many books ago, like 10 books ago. I don't even remember at this point. All right. This passage reminds me of A Long Way Home because Trevor is a lot like, I even forgot the kid's name from A Long Way Home. All right. Trevor is a lot like blank because, all right. Trevor is like this person I just read about at Jonestown, because, I mean, Johannesburg, because I think there's a Jonestown. All right. So text to text, how does it relate to what you've read before. Okay. Text itself, how does this relate to your own experiences, ideas? Okay. And finally, and just from what I recall last semester, in reading the last batch of common essays, and final assessments, that I got from my last class, um, did like a really great job of making these text to world connections. And a text to world connection is, how does our book relate to what's happening in the world? Okay, it's just what it sounds like, text to world. All right. And I think our book, it's good in that it's I was gonna say modern, but I guess that would depend on how old you are. But to me, it takes place 90s, early 2000s. Okay. The internet was sort of a thing, but it's the old internet. It's the internet I grew up with, where it's like 10 hours to download one song and it might not finish. All right. So text the world connection. All right. How do the ideas in this text relate to the larger world, the past, present, and future? Okay. I know apartheid has a lot in common, with systems of discrimination in the U.S. In fact, apartheid was actually inspired, by some of our practices in the U.S. All right. What I just read makes me think about event from the past because, okay, you're feeling the event from the past, of course. Um, what I just read makes me think about event from the day related in my own community or related to my own community. Text to world connection could be something that happened down the street from you. Okay. Or it could be something that happened on the other side of the world. Even though right now we're on the other side of the world from, where our book takes place. Okay. The key to all of these connections is to really flesh it out. Okay. You don't have to write like paragraphs about these, but if you say, what I just read reminds me of the time when I um give some reasoning. Okay. As best you can. I know you're going to be writing all this in the margins of your text. Okay. Text to self, text to text, text to world. Okay. So, like I said, if you're developing your own system of annotation and you need just some help getting started, try making these connections. These are great places to start. But overall, write your thoughts. Okay. Oh, another thing I do at the end of each chapter, and you don't have to do this. I just do it because it helps me. At the end of each chapter, or sometimes if they're short chapters, at the end of every few chapters, I'll just write a very short summary. Okay, in the book, very short, and really it just helps me remember who did what. All right, and if there's something that I think is really important, meaning it's gonna change the outcome of, or it's like a turning point in our book. Maybe it's a turning point in Trevor's life, or it's a turning point for Patricia, his mom, or whatever. I make sure I write that down. All right. Um, Another thing you all can write down: dates. Okay, names. Okay, Trevor has a lot of friends, big family. All right. You don't have to know all of them, but I think just knowing the important persons, in his life will help you out. Okay. Here's the best slide right here. Okay, the last one. This is how to do a summary in your own words, shorter than the original, accurate, objective, thorough. Now, okay, summarizing is not really a big part of this class, Like I said, I just do like informal summaries in my book. Okay, but you aren't going to be asked to summarize much in this class. Okay, even though summarizing is a valuable skill. Okay, now exit. Okay, there we go. Okay, good people. That material that I just covered is in the week 2 module, and it's all the way at the bottom, and it's called active reading. And Thursday, when we meet again, I just have a short PDF, and then I want to talk a little bit about the reading, and I want to talk about how to complete reading questions. Um, you guys can't see this yet, or I'm actually about to hide it. There was a discussion question, but it's not hidden from you guys' view. As with, I know I have some stuff you guys can't see in yours. All right, so good people. Okay, here's the homework. Oh no. If you have not picked up Born to Crime yet, try to pick that thing up before Thursday. Okay, Friday. All right, or before the weekend. Okay, just try to pick it up this week. Okay. Um, yeah, that's all I have, folks. Okay, that's all I have for tonight. Thank you for listening. I know I talked a lot. Any questions for me? Everyone throw away their highlighters. Okay. Yes. I have noticed that Office Depot is closing, man. They closed the two near me. I don't know. I guess people really are throwing away their highlighters. Okay. So if there are no further questions, folks, yes, that was it. Get the book. Okay. Get the book. Also, I just checked the assignment folder. If you have not uploaded a practice assignment to that folder on D2L, make sure you do that because pretty soon we're going to have to upload, an actual assignment. And if you need like a tutorial, go into this module, this D2L tutorials module, and then just click on this. All right. So if ever you don't get enough of the sound of my voice, okay, check this module. All right. So